2024 was a special year for Vanderbilt football. The Commodores achieved their first winning season since 2013, going 7-6 and ending the year with a victory in the Birmingham Bowl. Oh, and yeah, they also beat number 1 Alabama. The season was especially surprising given Vanderbilt only had a preseason over-under of 2.5 games, which makes sense given the 2-10 record and winless 0-8 season in the SEC the year prior.
In 2023, Vanderbilt was more comparable to a Mountain West school, narrowly beating a Hawaii team that finished 5-8, 35-28, and losing to UNLV 40-37, eventually losing every SEC game by at least 16 points.
Leading up to 2024, Vandy rebuilt with the transfer portal, adding 22 new players, but none became more impactful as New Mexico State's Diego Pavia. The Aggie quarterback was characterized by his confidence and effort to do anything imaginable to win. Tight end Eli Stowers, offensive coordinator Tim Beck, and special assistant to the head coach Jerry Kill also joined Pavia from New Mexico State, and with them returning in 2025, there hasn't been this much excitement in Vanderbilt football in a long time. However, there was another time, and it wasn't as long ago as you might have thought. For the last time the country talked about Vanderbilt football for anything other than being a punching bag and SEC GPA booster, let's go back to that 2013 season and 2012 and how Vanderbilt shaped their history and fielded 2 really good teams. Heading into 2012, Vanderbilt actually had some expectations, at least relative to the program. 2011 saw a 6-7 campaign in the first year of a coach you should all know, and one of the main characters of the story, James Franklin. Now, Franklin may be maligned today for never winning big games at Penn State, but he also rarely loses to teams he's worse than and has won 10-plus games in 6 of the last 8 non-COVID seasons. And despite his Big Ten championship, college football playoffs run last year, and 3 New Year's Six bowl wins, his greatest accomplishment might have been in Nashville. Franklin came from Maryland, where he was the offensive coordinator, helping the Terps go 9-4 and finish the 2010 season ranked number 23, ending with the second most points per game in the ACC at 32.2, and developing Torrey Smith into an all-ACC player and future Super Bowl winning wide receiver. Despite that praise, the 2012 season began with more of the same old Vanderbilt. The Week 1 contest against number 9 South Carolina showed promise as the Commodores held a 13-10 lead entering the fourth quarter, but eventually fell to the Gamecocks. It was a much better outcome, though, than the 2011 matchup with South Carolina, a 203 loss where Vandy had only 77 total yards compared to 79 penalty yards. A week later, Franklin's team traveled to Chicago to face a very similar Northwestern team. They were also 6-7 the year prior and went on to become one of the biggest surprises by winning 10 games in 2012. One of the wins did come over Vanderbilt, as Northwestern pulled away late to win 23-13, dropping Vandy to 0-2. Finally, Vanderbilt got into the victory column, blowing FCS Presbyterian out 58-0 in a much-needed tune-up game, which isn't always a surefire win for Vandy. That didn't last for long, though, as next week, number 5 Georgia took Vandy out to the shredder and won 48-3. Vanderbilt would follow that game up with their first SEC win of the year, taking care of Missouri 19-15 on the road. Once again, that didn't last long, though, as number 4 Florida was on the schedule next week, and they won somewhat comfortably 31-17. In that game, Vanderbilt let Jeff Driscoll, of all people, look like prime Colin Kaepernick as he ran for 177 yards and 3 touchdowns, doing most of his work from the pistol. I really did not think Jeff Driscoll had this in him. Vanderbilt proved me wrong, though. I've got to stop giving Vandy strays. I'm supposed to be hyping them up, but at this point in the season, Vandy hasn't done anything special. They did look competitive against some good teams, won a close one over a mediocre Missouri team, spanked a bad FCS team, and got spanked by a really good Georgia team. This wouldn't change the following week, although everyone got a laugh when they beat Auburn 17-13. Sure, the Tigers were only 1-5 coming into the game, but they were a year removed from winning the national championship. Actually, I take that laughing part back. By this point, I think most fans outside of Alabama just plain started to feel bad for Auburn. Vandy's defense, guided by Chase Garnham's 3 sacks, led the way, but he didn't steal the show like one of the 5 future NFL draft picks on this team did. Halfback Zach Stacy had established himself as one of the team's leaders after rushing for 1,193 yards and 14 touchdowns the year prior, and had been a consistent force to the offense in 2012, but put together his biggest game yet against Auburn. As a true bell cow, Stacy ran 27 times for 169 yards and a touchdown, adding 2 receptions and 24 receiving yards to get him near the 200 total yard mark. Luckily for his body, Stacy wasn't needed much the following week, as Vanderbilt ate another cupcake, defeating UMass 49-7. After that, the Commodores made the winning streak 3 and added to Kentucky's final miserable season of the Joker Phillips era, going into Lexington and shutting out the Wildcats 40-0. It was a complete team effort. On offense, there were 5 players with over 60 yards and a touchdown, while the defense forced Kentucky quarterbacks into going 13 of 35 passing and held the Cats to a 5 of 17 mark on 3rd down. To stretch the winning streak to 4, Vandy would have to go to Oxford and beat Hugh Freeze's team.
While it looked bleak as Vanderbilt trailed 23-6 in the third quarter, quarterback Jordan Rogers led a fierce comeback, capped off by this touchdown pass with under a minute left.
First down now at the 27. Another low snap. Rogers, man open, caught, touchdown Vanderbilt. Chris Boyd with the catch, and he takes it in, but there's a marker down.
Yes, it's the same Jordan Rogers who's an ESPN commentator today and the brother of Aaron Rodgers. He wasn't exceptional for Vandy, but he delivered a season-high 279 passing yards, and the Commodores wouldn't have won without him. His main man, wide receiver Jordan Matthews, delivered too, catching 9 passes for a season-high 153 yards and a touchdown. At this point, Vanderbilt had clinched a bowl berth, meaning back-to-back bowls were on the horizon for the first time in program history. Before that, though, Vandy had to play Tennessee. It's historically one of the biggest father-son rivalries in college football, as Tennessee had won 28 of the last 29 contests. This time was different, though. Vanderbilt would go on a 28-point unanswered run in the second half as the Commodores made a statement, winning 41-18. As much as you can say this wasn't a good Tennessee team, Vanderbilt broke their will. It was also the final game for head coach Derek Dooley, who was unsurprisingly fired the next day. Vandy concluded the regular season with a 55-21 blowout win over Wake Forest and gave their in-state rivals NC State a similar fate in the Music City Bowl, winning 38-24 with Franklin's defense forcing 5 interceptions. Vanderbilt ended the season 9-4 and ranked number 23 in the final AP poll. The 9 wins were the most since 1915, and it was Vandy's second time ever finishing a season in the top 25, also the first since 1948. Vanderbilt would see 4 players receive all SEC honors. Wide receiver Jordan Matthews and his SEC leading 94 receptions made the first team, while Zach Stacy, cornerback Andre Hall, and kicker Kerry Spear made the second team. Despite the historic 2012, Vanderbilt was still supposed to be good, but not quite build off the year prior in 2013. With an over-under of 7.5 wins and receiving votes in the top 25, Vanderbilt was expected to slightly regress, actually. It makes sense where that comes from, as the Doors didn't exactly face a murderer's row in 2012, especially by SEC standards. This time, Vanderbilt was set to face 4 preseason top 10 teams, and there'd be a much smaller chance of surprising somebody. Additionally, the Commodores would have to replace quarterback Jordan Rogers and halfback Zach Stacy. Austin Carter Samuels would win the starting quarterback job. He previously was a 2-year starter at Wyoming with unremarkable numbers, but 2 more years of practice in the SEC would help him get ready to meet the expectations. For his halfback, 5'7" Jerron Seymour would lead a backfield by committee after his sophomore year redshirt in 2012, with Wesley Tate and Brian Kimbrough getting notable reps as well. Vanderbilt would start the 2013 season against an intriguing Ole Miss team looking for revenge from last year. As it turned out, the game was almost an invert of the 2012 contest. Vanderbilt led 28-17 in the third quarter, but Ole Miss would come back and take the lead off a 75-yard touchdown with just a minute and 7 seconds to go. Carter Samuels would get Vandy into Ole Miss territory, but he threw a game-ending interception, his second of the day. Following an easy FCS win over Austin Peay, Vanderbilt would keep it respectable, but drop to South Carolina on the road, 35-25. 2 unremarkable wins over UMass and UAB got Vandy a winning record, but an unranked Missouri team came into Nashville, jumped out to a 20-0 lead early, and coasted to a 51-28 victory. Now, this loss got better as the season went on, as Missouri became a 12-win team that finished 5th in the country, but at this point, Vanderbilt seemed like they had fallen back to earth as a 3-3 team that's winless in SEC play. A bye week was coming as the perfect time, as the following week, Georgia was coming into town, and so was the national spotlight, as this would be the first Vandy home game televised by CBS since 1982. On a rainy day in Nashville, where Vanderbilt Stadium wasn't even full, the Doors would have an uphill battle against a talented Georgia team led by Aaron Murray and Leonard Floyd. Early, though, it looked like Vandy was up for the challenge. After going down 3-0, the teams traded touchdowns, and Vandy was set to tie up the game after their drive stalled at the 3-yard line. Instead, James Franklin dialed up one of the most beautiful fake field goals I've ever seen. Look how pumped up he is that it worked. Momentum eventually shifted on another trick play, with Austin Carter Samuels throwing a pick six to go down 17-14. Worse for Vanderbilt, he got injured on the following drive, dropping redshirt freshman Patton Robinette into his first meaningful snaps of his college career. Eventually, Georgia would take a lead 27-14 late in the third quarter and would even possess the ball following an interception from Robinette. Things were again looking bleak for Vanderbilt. The defense would hold, but the Doors would go 3-and-out once again. However, Georgia would muff the punt, and aided by a very questionable targeting call,
he's got time, and he just had it dislodged. It was Kraus that got hammered, and here comes the flag. Might we have targeting again?
Vanderbilt would get into the end zone off a Patton Robinette run. Vandy would get a quick stop once again before driving down to kick a field goal. The game was 27-24, 4:44 left. I sound like a broken record, but once again, Vandy got a stop, this time forcing a 3-and-out. However, on the punt, the snap was high and the Commodores would take over at the 13-yard line.
High snap, special teams problems. Vanderbilt will have it at the 13-yard line.
You should be able to tell what comes next.
Especially since they can still get the first down here as well.
Seymour. A little jitterbug. Jerron Seymour gives Vanderbilt the lead.
Look at the defense, Tim. Stunned.
I mean, you talk about quick feet. That's a little dance and go. Dance and go.
Let go of me. Tim's up.
The Vandy defense would eventually hold, forcing an interception on the final play of the game. It was all over. Vanderbilt had just beat Georgia. It was Vanderbilt's first ranked win since 2008 and first time beating Georgia since 2006, something they've done only one other time since. Quarterback Aaron Murray was held to only 114 yards passing and an interception. At the end of the day, James Franklin outcoached Mark Richt and won all three phases of the game. That's insane to say, but it's true. The following week, Vandy couldn't ride the momentum and beat number 14 Texas A&M. Curtis Samuels was still injured, but it wouldn't have mattered given the 56-24 final score. Robinette again got to start the final week against Florida, and he only needed to complete 6 passes against a self-destructing Florida team. Vanderbilt would coast to a 34-17 win, their first in Gainesville since 1946. Austin Curtis Samuels came back for the Week 11 contest with Kentucky, and Jordan Matthews was a huge fan, catching 12 passes for 141 yards with an additional 31 yards on the ground for good measure. The duo pushed Vanderbilt to a 22-6 win and secure another bowl berth. The Tennessee rivalry game followed, which felt like a game Vandy should lose. The Commodores fumbled 3 times, battled numerous injuries to the defensive backfield, and struggled to get anything going on the ground. The Commodore defense ended up keeping Vanderbilt in the game, giving Curtis Samuels and company a chance down 10-7 with 4 minutes left. He would convert a crucial 4th and 1 on the drive and lead his Commodores to the 5-yard line with just 21 seconds left. Patton Robinette checked in, and he made this play happen.
Tried the jump pass and instead runs it in. He faked the jump pass and then ran it in. An improbable comeback that took a review on 4th and inches, and Vandy has the lead.
Vandy would get a stop on defense and move to 7-4, securing back-to-back wins over the Vols. Vandy would conclude the regular season with another rivalry win over Wake Forest. Man, it's so weird that these teams played each other to end the season for a couple years, with Kerry Spear drilling a 38-yard field goal with 39 seconds left to get Vandy a 23-21 win. They would be selected to the BBVA Compass Bowl, which today is the Birmingham Bowl, and get past Houston 41-24 to secure another 9-4 campaign. Vandy would also be ranked 24th in the final AP poll following the win, which is their third and final time being ranked to end a season in program history. The bowl win really became the last true highlight for Vanderbilt before 2024. Following the game, James Franklin left to become the Penn State head coach, taking much of the coaching staff to Happy Valley. Derek Mason, previously the defensive coordinator at Stanford, took over as head coach, and Patton Robinette got the Week 1 starting quarterback job. In 2014, the team was unrecognizable and looked like the same old Vanderbilt, going 3-9, nearly losing to UMass and Charleston Southern, and getting beat 37-7 to Temple in the season opener. In his 7-year tenure, Mason made and lost 2 bowl games, but at least managed to beat Tennessee 3 straight times from 2016 to 2018. Vanderbilt is almost an impossible place to win at. Seeing the 2012 and 2013 seasons shows how great of a coach James Franklin is and just how special those teams were. Hopefully, Vandy can achieve another great season in 2025 because there's nothing better than seeing SEC fans have a meltdown because they just lost to Vandy. If you're still here, I want to thank you so much for your time and for watching this video. Shades of College Football is still new, and I want to make this channel something special. A like and subscribe would be huge for the channel, and I'll see you again next time.